kind of just started training at, like, say, 13. I was doing MMA, might have been 12, around that time. And then didn't look back, really. Like I say, there weren't many women's fights on Cage Warriors, but at the same time, there wasn't that many women. Again, like, I struggle with this because, like I say, I see him on a daily basis.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
to me, he's just a normal person. I was a bit frustrated with that performance as it was anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm my harshest critic. Came in to teach the kids class, and they actually ended up giving me a break. So I was so upset about pulling out the fight. Like, it was like I was heartbroken. I feel like there's a fine line, but there's definitely a difference. Like, I know people that will literally, like, they'll miss training for every single little excuse because they didn't feel 100% that day, and it's like, those are the people that I feel like don't have that mental kind of strength to do what needs to be done.
Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation presents my story, and I'm delighted to welcome to Eat Sleep Media today UFC star Cory McKenna. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
It's good, and it's nice to meet you in person. Obviously, we've spoken a couple of times online and stuff when you came on the fight show, so it's nice to kind of have a chat in person and whatnot. Obviously, we're a week out from UFC London. Didn't go your way on the night, but how are you feeling having digested it a little bit?
Yeah, obviously very frustrated with myself. I haven't actually watched it back yet. Obviously, plan to do that with coaches and everyone wants to get back, so don't want to obsess over it too much, otherwise I'll end up driving myself crazy. But yeah, like I say, frustrated. I already have things in mind that I need to work on. I've already spoke to coaches. So just, back to work, make the changes that need to be made and get back out there as soon as possible.
Yeah, was it nice to be fighting in the UK? Because I guess obviously your UFC debut was obviously in America, wasn't it? Was it in America or was it the Fight Island?
It was Vegas, in the Apex.
Yeah, so it's and plus obviously fans back as well.
Yeah, it was it was a completely different experience. First time experience in the crowd, like 20,000 people or more. I don't know the exact number. So yeah, it was wild. Like, it's completely different to anything I've experienced before. So it was a great opportunity for me to experience that.
And obviously you got to stay in the UK for a couple of weeks after as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen my family for 2 years. That was kind of another reason why I wanted to fight back here, get to see them, have a little bit of a catch up. Obviously, a lot's changed over the couple of years. I was obviously out there when the pandemic and everything, so just ended up staying out there. So yeah, it's been nice to kind of take that opportunity to catch up and see family and everything.
With that, were you planning to stay out there anyway, or did you kind of end up staying out there because of the pandemic and everything?
I mean, obviously, like, it was also circumstantial. Like, obviously, I tore the ankles, and then I had a fight book, so obviously I didn't want to come back because I had a camp, and then obviously I had like the head stuff, and like then I was out there trying to figure that out, and I had all that stuff going on, and then I got another fight book, so then I had I wanted to obviously stay out there to train, so it's just kind of like how things played out, what I mean? Like, didn't really have the opportunity to want to like come back and not have too much training or like miss training for the traveling and stuff. So, and also, like, obviously there was the risk with everything being so like in the air about the pandemic. Obviously, I didn't want to come back and get like stuck here, and then
and then
I feel like there's more opportunities for fighting and stuff. Like you say, like if stuff shuts down, like all the fights were going to be at the Apex or whatever. So for me, it was just kind of like the opportunities and stuff like weighed it up and just ended up being out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the pandemic kind of threw a spanner in the works for everyone, didn't it? In terms of travel and things like that. So with this series, what I tend to do is kind of just talk to people about their lives, their careers and stuff like that, and then we'll just kind of go off in various tangents as we go along. But for people who maybe didn't see you on the fight show, which is obviously very completely MMA and boxing fans, there's sort of a few but most of them are all for sort of fighting fans. With this series, it's a very general series. We have fighters, we've had actors, filmmakers, all sorts of people. Take us right back to the start. Tell us a bit about Cory McKenna as a child and growing up and that side of things.
Yeah, I mean, started training karate when I was like 10. just a bit of a hobby. You know, was looking for something to do. Like I said, I tried every sport you can list. I tried it as a kid. You know, I wasn't, I was an active kid that liked to stay busy, but also wasn't really like necessarily like good at anything.
Okay.
So nothing really like stuck until I started karate, and then shortly afterwards, the gym introduced like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai. So I started doing that because I was already in the gym every day, so I might as well. And at that point, like I was training at that, started competing at the other disciplines and everything. And then my dad was just kind of like, "Oh, why don't you try MMA?" So it kind of just seemed like the natural progression. I went down to BKK, and just took to it like a fish to water. So I was kind of just started training at, like, say, 13. I was doing MMA, might have been 12 around that time. And then didn't look back, really.
Yeah, indeed. So, obviously, we're in Wales now. BKK's, where's that? Is that Gloucester way, isn't it?
That's Colchester. My dad was based in Colchester with the army.
Got you. So, did you grow up in Wales or sort of?
Kind of split between the two.
True, yeah.
Yeah, like I think it was like high school. I spent like more of my high school years in Colchester, so like kind of like around that time where I started training, and then we moved back to Wales not too long after,
So, where in Wales would that be then?
Live in Cwmbran.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not too far from here, is it?
No, like 30 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it's not too bad, is it? Newport way, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, my geography is notoriously bad, you see. That's why I was asking, because I wanted to know if I knew where it was. So from there, so you said you tried a few different sports. Was there anything other than kind of martial arts and combat sports that you took a shine to, and just nothing really?
Not really. Like, like I would play sports for my school and stuff, but nothing that I really saw myself pursuing as a career. Like just tried everything really. Like I did athletics for a bit. I used to run for my school. My dad was a runner, but not really built for that. And but so I can't see myself really, like they say, or couldn't see myself really making a career out of that or like pursuing it long term. Obviously stopped growing at 12, so obviously stopped playing basketball shortly after that. But
I know the feeling.
But like nothing really that I ever saw myself like pursuing, other than martial arts. Like I really did just take to that, and I was so young too. So,
what were you like as a teenager in high school? Were you well behaved? Were you good? Were you kind of in a bit of trouble? What were you like?
No, I was a goody two shoes. I was the kid that was doing her homework at lunch so that I could go to the gym afterwards. You know what I mean? So I kind of just I feel like I was pretty good.
So
yeah.
Yeah. So your parents didn't have too much strife with you as a teenager.
No, I keep telling them, I'm like, I feel like they were pretty lucky, but yeah. I'm sure they would have some things to say.
Yeah, funny enough, I was speaking to my mother the other day. We were talking about my kids because I've got 3 teenage boys, and she was like, "You don't know how lucky you are because they're all really well behaved." Hope they don't see this, but generally they're well behaved. Like they're 17, 15, and 13. They don't really like go out and hang around on the streets and stuff a lot. They more like go and do sports or go to weights, or my oldest one goes to work. And she was like, "You're lucky because if they were anything like you'd be having some sort of nervous breakdown now." Because I was a horrible teenager. And,
really?
Yeah, I was bad. And then because as they've started to become like they've got older and they've gone towards their teenage years and into their teenage years, I'm like petrified that they're going to start doing the things that I was doing. So I'm watching them like a hawk, but they're all really good. So I'm lucky. But it sounds like you were well behaved. But you've got is it a brother?
Yeah, I got a younger brother.
Is he well behaved?
Yeah, he's a stereotypical teenager, I'd say. Like, just he's got a little job now. He's at college. He likes to play his video games. I'd say he's low maintenance.
There you go. So your mum come out nicely of that. Two well behaved teenagers.
Yeah, I'm sure we stressed her out a little bit, but I definitely think it could have been worse.
Oh, 100%. Goodness me. So with the fighting, when did it become, or when did you sort of think, this is not a hobby anymore, I quite fancy doing this for a living?
I always was pretty, pretty into it. Like I was, once I started training, I knew that was all I wanted to do. I was in the gym every day of the week, just training that from the age of 12, 13. But I had my first amateur fight at 15, because I feel like I always say, you don't know if you want to be a fighter until you've had a fight,
Yeah.
like you can't, like I always used to say to people who'd say they want to do it, like I'm like, you have to get in there to like really be able to say you want to do it, you know. And I had my first amateur fight at 15, and then pretty much after that I was like, oh, that's it.
Just
like,
got to do it.
Yeah. So.
Got the bug, 100%. Like, I can't remember who it was. Someone who I had in here recently, a fighter, either a boxer or an MMA fighter, said everyone says they want to do, especially these days with MMA because it's a bit more popular. Everyone will say, "Oh yeah, I want to do it," and quite often, like after events like UFC London, who's just gone, you'll have an influx of people come into the gyms for the different, courses and groups and whatever. But then it's very different to doing the training, and then you never really know, like you just said, until you have a fight and you get popped in the mouth or you get, choked out or whatever, and then it does probably, I would imagine, change how you feel about it for some people, and then in your case, it just made you carry on.
Yeah, solidified it. Like you say, there's so many different aspects that go into fighting that people don't see. Like, it's not like training's fun, sparring's fun. There's some people that like they're amazing in the gym and they don't perform in fights, like whatever reasons it is. Like, there's so many aspects that go into it to where, like, say, I feel like until you've actually stepped in there, you can't say you want to be a fighter.
Yeah. How many amateur fights did you have?
7.
So it's not a massive amount, is it? But I think
for women, it's pretty large. I feel like you look at most women's amateur records, and I'm probably one of the more experienced.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the amateur, women's fighting in the UK specifically, because you don't see a lot of the female fights on like the Cage Warriors card. So Cage Warriors being the biggest in the UK and Europe, I suppose. But you'll get the odd female fight on there, but there's not. On the UFC, there'll always be like at least 1 or 2 throughout the prelims and the main card with each show. But Cage Warriors isn't quite as, there's not as many female fights on that. I know you fought on there, obviously.
Yeah, I feel like the amateur scene is increasing a lot, and I feel like a lot more people these days are getting more experience at amateur because there's the opportunities. Like I say, there weren't many women's fights on Cage Warriors, but at the same time, there wasn't that many women. I think me and Molly are the only fighters that have been contracted on Cage Warriors. I had my whole pro career on there. I know she had most of hers on there too. But yeah, there's not really that many pro women fighting consistently around Europe. Whereas like with the UFC, obviously they have the whole world to pull from, don't they?
Yeah, I was going to ask that if it's a lack of numbers really within the UK. I know there's a few sort of at the moment who are kind of on the brink of kind of getting to that Cage Warriors level. There's a lady, what's her name? I'm going to forget now. Kate Basic, I think her name is, who's supposed to be pretty good. Looks like she might be like getting towards that level soon. I think she was due to fight on a Cage Warriors Academy card recently, but her opponent pulled out. Do you think like the success of in the UK of people like yourself and Molly and you obviously had Joanne Wood this past Saturday. Do you think that's going to help bring more women into the sport when they see other British women, fighting at the top level?
Yeah, I'd hope so. Like you say, like the more people that are doing it and everything, it kind of makes it seem a little bit more accessible. So hopefully it does kind of encourage other people to do it. And like I say, the amateur scene for women has definitely grown significantly over the past few years, so I don't see any reason why like shortly they won't be turning over and starting to make that move up. So I think like say the more accessible it seems to people, I think the more people are going to do it.
Yeah, I think it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because like obviously in America, America's so big that there's so many areas. You're always going to get more fighters coming from a place like that. What's it like? Like obviously, how old were you when you moved out to America? I think you told me this before.
So I started like visiting. So my first visit there was like 16. And then I was like 17, 18 when I started going out like consistently, like every camp. And I moved out officially moved out there 2 years ago. So before just under 2 years ago, because it tied in with Contenders.
Yeah.
So I went out there for my Contenders fight and then stayed out there.
It's what was that like as a 16-year-old to go out to America for that first time? Did you find it daunting, or was it just?
I feel like because I travelled a lot around like obviously UK to find training partners and to go to different gyms and get different experience. I feel like it was a little bit more like normal for me. Like I feel like I built that. Like I was used to going into new environments and used to kind of like doing all that. Like my dad made sure that like I kind of had all that experience growing up. So I feel like it was kind of similar, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, and
Even though
also
it's a
at that
different
age
country,
you
you just don't take it. And
yeah,
at that age, I suppose as well.
there's no pressure, there's no expectations. Like you don't really
think of
care.
those things, do you? No,
Yeah.
you're right. I suppose as an adult, it's weird, isn't it? Because as an adult, you'd probably overanalyze it much more than what you do as like a 16-year-old.
Oh, definitely. Like, say, like 15, 16-year-old me, I didn't care. Like, not because I was like cocky or anything, but it was just kind of like, you go in there and people kind of expect you to be a 15, 16-year-old girl, you know what I mean? And then to kind of like, you know, if the bar's set low, all you can do is impress.
Yeah.
It's kind of like my theory, but obviously, like, say, like now we're older and got a bit more success and everything, obviously, you do put a bit more pressure on yourself, don't you? So, yeah, I feel like at that age, I just kind of was like,
yeah, just go in.
Like,
whatever. Were people surprised, like, obviously, because, like you said, like you like me, quite short and small, like, were people surprised, like, when you then would go in and spar and train, and you'd be exceptionally good at beating people up?
I think, yeah, I would, it really depends, like you say, like, obviously now, I don't think so much, like, but as a kid, well, probably, for sure, you know what I mean? You see this, like, tiny little British girl walking, it's going to be a bit like, okay.
Yeah. What about, like, when you went in there as a teenager, was it over? So when you first went out there, sorry, as like 15, 16, was that to Uriah Faber's Alpha Academy, or was that to other places?
So we did like a little road trip the first time when I was young. It would have been like 16, I think. I just left high school. We did King's MMA, Glendale, and Team Alpha Male. So I only did like, you know, I think it was like a 2-week road trip or something we did. And then when I was 17, I went to ATT for a couple of weeks. And then right before my 18th birthday, I got to basically pick a gym to go do a camp at, because when I turned 18, I was supposed to have my pro debut, but I got injured, so it got postponed. So I was out at Team Alpha Male doing a camp. I think I went out like a month before my 18th birthday. That was when I kind of picked that as my like home away from home gym.
So was there any particular reason why you picked Team Alpha Male, or was it just that's where you felt comfortable?
Yeah, I just felt like it fit, you know, like the style. You know, they had a lot of girls, like, and small men, and I just kind of felt like I fit there, you know, like in terms of like the lifestyle and the game plan and everything like that. So I just kind of like felt like that was the place for me.
I think with things like that, I'd imagine, same as anything, I suppose, it's not just about the like the level, you know. Obviously it's a world renowned center and place and training place, but like it's also about being comfortable and looking at all those different aspects which you said, like the people that are there, their goals, how they go about treating people and stuff like that, the atmosphere, like it's all got to kind of come into it. And I guess when you're young, it's got to be even more so in some ways, because obviously you're going to be going out there for camps and things like that. You're going to be away from home. You're going to be on the other side of the world. So you've got to make sure that you go into a place that fits all of those aspects. What was like, how did you feel about when you first met Uriah Faber?
Again, like, you know, I struggle with this because, like I say, I see him on a daily basis.
Yeah,
like, to me, he's just a normal person, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I rip him just the same as I rip everyone else. Like, we're always kind of like just messing around. Like say, to me, he's just a normal person. Like, you know, we're super close. Like, I'm fortunate to where like he puts a lot of time into me. You know, and I just think he's like just a really great guy. But like say, he's not like, to me, he's not like Uriah Faber. Like he's
it is strange, don't it? Because like to everyone else in the world, he's like Uriah Faber, UFC legend, But it's again, I guess it's the same with anybody. It's like once you start to get to know the person and on a daily basis, you know? You just kind of humanize the person, don't you? And I found that a lot with like I had this weird conversation with my wife the other day, and she was like, "You realise that like the people who you're kind of best mates with now and like close to now, but about sort of 10 years ago, you were kind of watching them play football and they were literally like your heroes, when you were sort of 20 or whatever, and I was like, yeah, it has crossed my mind, but I don't even think of that now.
Yeah.
Until it comes up in that conversation. But it is like a weird thing. But like you say, when you're speaking to people or working with people on a daily basis, you kind of lose that aspect of things. But what's he like as a coach? Like, is he quite stern, harsh, relaxed? What's it like?
I feel like he very much fits the mold of what you would assume with him. Like he's relaxed, but also like he knows when he needs to tell everyone, put everyone in their place. But no, he's pretty relaxed. Like say, like I feel like we have like a good team like atmosphere there to where like say everyone respects him and listens to him and knows. Same with all the coaches. Like I mean, like I feel like everyone's quite respectful, but also everyone's really close. Like that's kind of one of the reasons I liked it out there. Like they really have built that like family dynamic, which I think is huge in teams. Like the bonds that you make like in MMA, like it's kind of strange. Like everyone's ridiculously close. There's like they say like there's no tension on the mats. Everything like everyone's super close and it's just a good atmosphere. So he's super chill, but kind of like I feel like that's the team atmosphere that he's built.
Yeah, for sure. Like, is there a particular coach within the team who would be the one to kind of give out the hairdryer treatment? So say like I don't know, there was a reason that needed to read the right act a little bit for whatever reason. It could be anything. Is there a particular coach who would do that, or
you mean like someone that's like
someone maybe is a bit sterner or just is the one to give the tellings off out?
Oh yeah, that'd be Danny. Danny's nice and stern. I like that though. Like he's kind of like he's a bit harsher. Your eyes chill. Joey can be pretty stern too. Like I feel like everyone's got like a slightly different approach.
Yeah.
But like I feel like they all work really well together.
Yeah, they kind of gel into a good dynamic. Funny enough, we had Matt Figlak on the Fight Show on Sunday, and I was asking him about it. Obviously, he works with his brother a lot because they're both within the Cage Warrior system. And I was asking him, do you find it easier because you got your brother there? You can kind of like it's like brutal honesty then, isn't it? Like because one thing which always puzzles me is each month, every year, we see fights and as you're watching them on TV, they can be very clearly going a certain way, say in the first 2 rounds, and then they'll go to the corners between that last round, and the coaches will kind of not put across to the fighter like you'd really need to finish this fight in this 3rd round. They'll kind of say, oh yeah, or you're 2 up, and then they coast and they get knocked out, or they get finished, or they lose on a judge's decision. For you, like how important is that brutal kind of honesty, whether it's in a fight or it's in camp, or like do you need that, or do you need to be like what do you respond best to?
Yeah, I've had this discussion a lot. Like say like a lot of people react differently to some people need positive reinforcement, some people need to be like babied a little bit. I definitely thrive more off like the tough love and just kind of like if there's something you need to do and like tell me. It's kind of what I was raised on too, so I feel like that's probably why I function a little bit better off of that, but like I'm one of those people like I will react better like if you yell at me and tell me where I'm messing up than if you're like, oh, okay, this was great, but maybe try this, what I mean? Like I need you to be like, right,
tell you like
sort this out.
That was shite, come on.
That's pretty much it's pretty much the way I get coached. But like say every athlete's different. I remember like I was cornering my mum once, and like I literally was in the fight, like cornering my mum. And I want to say he was judging at the time. He leant over and he like tapped me on the shoulder, and he was like, hey, try to be more positive in your coaching approach. And like I think this was like the 2nd round, and I looked at him, I was like, what? And he was like, like try saying like, oh, this was great, but maybe next time do this. And I'm like, my mum's getting punched in the face. Like I'm gonna tell her what she needs to hear. Like I know how she. But like they say that's how we worked best, like...
that reminds me of it. I can't remember what TV show it's off. It's off some comedy show where it says about like a compliment sandwich or something, where you give like a compliment, then you give the negative, then you give the compliment. It's something stupid, but that's what that reminded me of. Your mum fought. You just I can't let that go by. I didn't expect that. So what was that in?
She fought like a lot on the like Jack show. It's a Cage Warriors Academy now. It used to be BC MMA. She did co-main Cage Warriors in Ireland once against Catherine Costigan.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. So MMA's in your family,
Yeah.
without doubt.
We all started it together pretty much. So.
Yeah. So, what about your brother? Does he still sort of do
No,
it?
he stopped training quite a few years ago, so it wasn't really for him.
Yeah, that's cool. So your mum main evented Cage Warriors in Ireland. That's really
Co-main,
cool.
yeah.
Co-main, yeah. Co-main still a main. No.
Yeah, she used to tease me all the time. Like, she'd be like, I'd be fighting, she'd be like, well, you still haven't co-mained a Cage Warriors. And then I got, like, the Contenders, and then, like, obviously the UFC, and I was just like,
yeah, there we go.
Sit down.
she can't say it no more.
Yeah.
How did the Contenders thing come about? Because obviously that's developed into a massive, not just a massive show, but it's also become a kind of really good tool for the UFC to discover fighters without maybe giving them, like a 3-fight contract initially. They're going on the Contender series and being able to showcase their skills and earn it that way. I think it's a good concept. But how did you find it, and how did it come about?
Uriah, he was on Fight Island, corner. I can't remember who he was cornering. But yeah, I think he was like sat down with Mick and stuff, and he just like, I woke up one morning to a text, and he was just like, Contenders in 3 weeks, and I was like, oh, like, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
It was pretty short notice. Like, say, he messaged me like, I think it was less than 3 weeks out because it's on a Tuesday, and then I got the message on literally like a Saturday. I ran down the hill because I was staying like 5 minutes from BKK. So I ran down the hill. I was like, Jack, your eyes give me this opportunity. It was like the most stressful 2 weeks of my life, I'll be honest. Like, trying to sort out visas and travel.
Say, like, that's not a lot of time to sort out travel and visas and do
Luckily, I was already working on my visa, so the UFC. But I can't remember if it was the UFC or like we just tried pulling strings, but I ended up like kind of expediting it, and I had to like go to the embassy and everything, and we had to push my flights back twice, and they were like, right, if she doesn't get on this flight, like, she can't come. Like, I literally flew, I think it was like Friday night.
That's proper stress, that, isn't it?
Yeah, flew Friday night, landed, pretty much had to like cut weight, weigh in, and then fight. Like, it was like, there was no, and I literally picked my visa up from because obviously you send your passport off for them to put the visa in, so I picked my passport up on the way to the airport. So to the point where, like, if my passport was like even like 30 minutes late, I'd have missed my flight.
Jesus.
So that's but everything fell in line. I think once I got to the fight, then I was just kind of like, everything has been so stressful and so hard just to get here, to the point where it was just kind of like, it has to happen.
Gotta do it now. That was that sounds like a stressful couple of weeks. Like, how difficult is it, like, in turn when fighters have these short notice fights? There's been a few recently where people in the UFC, they've taken fights on like 2 weeks notice, and I think there was one the other week which took 4 or 5 days notice. And obviously you've got to weigh up the opportunity, but also, is it the right thing for you? Obviously in your case, I'm assuming because it was such a tremendous opportunity to get your foot in the door and show them what you could do, there wasn't too much weighing up.
Well, I hadn't fought again for, it was like over a year since I'd last fought, and then obviously with the pandemic, everything was shutting down, so it was kind of like, it was like a big opportunity, and also it was like, I haven't fought for ages.
Were you nervous going into the fight? Or did you
No,
just
like I say, like,
stressed?
at that point, it was just kind of like a relief to be there, you know what I mean? So, that was pretty cool experience.
So you only had a couple of days from landing to the fight, really? What did you say?
Yeah, I think I landed Friday night, fought Tuesday. Maybe, it would have been like Saturday. It was close. Because I landed, literally, they were like, right, media, cut weight, weigh in, fight.
Do you cut a lot of weight from the, like, you walk around to your fight, your weight?
It's been different every fight, to be fair. The last one was pretty rough, unnecessarily for some reason. I didn't actually leave that much to cut, but for some reason it just wasn't coming off. But Contenders, it was kind of funny actually, because I only had like a few pounds to cut because I'd been staying ready for an opportunity, and then we had like a little break where we were allowed to leave the hotel. So me and my friend, because he came out with me to like help me train and call, like, so it was short notice.
Yeah.
We had like a little break where we were allowed to leave the hotel and stuff before coming back to get like our COVID test, other COVID test. So I was like, oh, let's go for a walk. The weather's lovely. So we walked to Whole Foods, which is like a 40-minute walk. And we got to Whole Foods, and I was like, oh, I feel really dehydrated. Obviously, it's Vegas in middle of summer, like.
Yeah.
And we're walking back, and we're like 10 minutes into the walk, and I'm like burnt to a crisp because I completely forgot that I burn so easy.
Yeah. Not used to that level of heat, but probably as well.
Yeah, and it was stupid. So we go back to the hotel. I'm like, I look like a lobster. Obviously, then I got to like try getting like an Epsom salt bath to cut weight. I don't even need to explain how much that hurts.
Jesus.
So I was like, so I only had I dried out on the walk back. Then so we started cutting, and I had like a pound to do, but it was like miserable in like a completely different way.
Yeah, that sounds just quite brutal.
Yeah, I learned my lesson with that one.
They I talk about weight cutting a lot when I speak to fighters because I'm interested in it from like all aspects of it really, because like it just seems like a really brutal experience in some cases. You know, obviously the idea is to try and do it all gradually and kind of be as as less stressful as possible. But you do see, some fighters in boxing and MMA, they can get to the weigh-ins and they're like still got a pound or something to lose, and it's quite stressful. And you've got the sauna little things, I don't know what they're called, so sorry, but like they're like pop-up, they're like pop-up saunas.
Yeah, we have them.
They it just doesn't look very comfortable, just doesn't look nice. But I see, and you said then a minute ago about like you didn't have much to cut, but it just wasn't, you just couldn't cut anymore or whatever, or it just wouldn't come off. Is that from dehydration and stuff like that, where you just haven't got?
There's a lot of different factors that can go into it, like you said, there's so many different factors that can go into it. Like, I mean, we got it done. It wasn't like crazy hard. I also kind of enjoy it in like some weird sort of way. So.
Sadist.
Yeah, it's just part of the process, and it's just.
It's gotta be nice when you've made weight and you can kind of just chill and rehydrate.
Yeah. And everything tastes so much better after a weight cut too.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like it's like after you've done that weight cut, I'd be finding it very. I was watching Michael Bisping the other day, and he was saying like back in the day he would forget that he was cutting weight, so he'd be like driving home late at night, and he'd like go in and get like you'd see a McDonald's, get a McDonald's, eat it, and he'd be halfway through it or just finishing it, and he'd be like, oh shit, I'm weighing in on Friday. And he just like, I would imagine that causes a problem to the weight cut if you just forget and have a McDonald's.
Yeah, I don't see how that's possible. I
think it was in his early career.
Right. Yeah, I've never forgotten that I'm dieting and cutting weight.
But I think it was weighed like in his real early days before he was kind of. It's from his documentary. It was, but yeah, that'd be quite. If you're cutting weight, you don't want to forget, do you? And start.
No, that's.
Munching down. I can't imagine how you could forget as well.
That's it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. There we go. So you won your Contenders fight.
Mhm.
Exciting.
Yeah, it was fun.
Was that the one where you just had a bit of a war with the? Who did you fight in that one?
Demopolis.
Was that the one where you had a bit of a war? My memory is so.
I think there was a lot of grappling in that one.
So, how did you find, not necessarily like the experience, because obviously you had all the stress before, so it kind of was a relief to fight, like you said. But how did you find like the actual fight and because it is a different, because that's at the Apex, isn't it?
Yeah. So
it is a different atmosphere to maybe, when you would have fought on Cage Warriors and stuff like that. It's a kind of smaller environment, isn't it? And because of COVID and things like that, would have been quite restrictive.
Yeah, it was definitely weird. Like I say, it was literally like my coaches, her coaches, Dana, Mick and Sean, like just the matchmakers. Yeah. So it's like, it was definitely like weird. Like I feel like I have more people watching me and sparring than that. So it kind of like, it does feel a bit strange because like you say, it's just like a room full of people whose opinions really matter to you, just like watching you, and it's like, oh, okay. If anything, I think it's actually a little bit easier with the crowd because everything gets drowned out and just but it was just definitely like, it was just a strange experience. Like it wasn't good, it wasn't like bad. Well, obviously it was good, but I meant like it wasn't like necessarily like a positive or a benefit to having that like close quarters. It was just strange, like you say, yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, isn't it? Like, because it's literally all the people's opinion who you at that time like matter the most to you. and they're all just there in a room
Yeah, it's
getting ready
so
to watch
quiet.
a fight. And yeah, watching some of those fights, like you can literally hear every noise in some of the Apex fights. It's particularly on the Contender series. You can hear the coaches. Sometimes you can hear the judges kind of just in the background. You can't hear what they're saying. You can hear someone talking.
Yeah.
It's so quiet.
It's eerie quiet. Like, it's like a huge hall, so it's like just everything like echoes, and just, yeah, it was strange. It was definitely like a bit like, I remember afterwards it just kind of felt like a dream. It was just like, I just felt like I floated through the whole thing.
Yeah. What about, do you find it better or easier that in those kind of COVID in arenas, if you like, you can really hear your coaches during a fight, whereas obviously in a UFC London, for instance, when there's 20,000 people or whatever, it can be maybe a bit more difficult to hear them. Do you tend to listen to them much in the fights, or is it more at the end of the round?
I'm usually pretty tuned into them. Like I said, like, I'm used to them. You know, they're the people whose opinions matter most to me. Like, I'm pretty tuned into them. Like, you know, so I can generally hear them. Like, I've never really had too much of an issue. But obviously, like, between rounds when they're in there as well, like, obviously, you know, they're nice and clear and concise. So I don't think it makes too much of a difference. Obviously, like you say, in the Apex, could definitely hear them very clearly. Mm-hmm. Like you say, everything, you could actually hear a pin drop. So it's pretty different for sure.
What was Dana White's opinion of your Contenders fight?
Can't remember, to be honest.
No,
not really.
No.
I know I got the contract. I remember he was like, I'm in an hour, and he was trying to play it up to the camera about like how young I am and all that jazz. But sorry. But yeah.
That was Cory's fault, not mine. Just to say.
Oh, too clumsy.
You said that literally before we came up here, that you're super clumsy.
Yeah, shouldn't have given me a glass of water. Yeah, so yeah, I think he was impressed. Like you say, I feel like that was like a fight that I was kind of expected to lose. You know, they ended up signing the girl shortly later anyway. So I think she was the one that they had their eye on. So I come in there as the underdog and everything. So it's pretty cool.
Would you rather be the underdog or the favourite going into a fight?
In all fairness, I don't care. At the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference to the the intention and the outcome. So
interesting. I wonder sometimes, because if you're the underdog, there's no pressure on you, is there at all? But then ultimately, from a fighter's point of view, I guess it shouldn't make a great deal of difference, because you're just going in there to do a job and to fight and to.
I feel like I have the same amount of support regardless of whether I'm the underdog or the favourite as well. Like I said, I had the same people supporting me and everything, so it kind of doesn't really make a difference to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what would you, in terms of where you want to fight, sort of next, where you're looking at? Obviously, there's been talk of another UK show, perhaps in a few months. There's been talk of Fight Island shows. Is there a particular month which you're sort of looking at, like, that's when I go on and get back in the cage? Or have you not thought about it because you've been in sunny Wales on the holes?
Well, obviously I've come up with like some plans, and I've talked to coaches and everything. Obviously I'm very aware that I need to obviously make some improvements, make some changes. Some stuff was highlighted in the last fight. I also obviously I've been taking a little bit of time to let injuries heal that I went into the fight with. And just kind of so I've just got to kind of go back, reassess, work on what I need to work on. And then at that point, regardless who or where, I just need to get back in there and get back on get back on those wins. So for me, it's just a case of staying healthy, making the improvements that need to be made, and taking smart fights. Yeah.
You mentioned obviously you've had a few injuries because you tore up your ankle before, didn't you? Was it your ankle or your knee?
Ankle. Yeah.
And you had the head thing.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a bit about those and what the recovery was like, and if it was a bit weird and frustrating.
Obviously I tore my ankle in my UFC debut. That took a while to heal. Maybe 5 months, I think.
Was that frustrating? Because obviously you'd come off a super impressive performance.
I also feel like the performance wasn't as impressive. I tore my ankle at the start of that third round, so it kind of just threw off that threw things off a little bit. Not that I was, I was a bit frustrated with that performance as it was anyway. But I'm my harshest critic. Do you think the injury skewed people's opinion of your performance? Do you? No, but I also I get mad every time I get a decision. Especially now that's 2 split decisions now, so it's kind of annoying. But yeah, I tore my ankle. That took a while to heal. It wasn't too frustrating because I was training around it. Like I was still able to work on other stuff. Like, I was hopping around the weights room, lifting weights and stuff. Like I was just making things work. Got back on that, started training, booked a fight, started getting headaches shortly afterwards. They increasingly got worse. That was the frustrating one. Didn't really figure out what it was, sort it out. Like it is what it is, sort of thing. But yeah, that was the frustrating one because I couldn't train around it. That's the first time I've had an injury that I can't train around. Like every time I get hurt, I'm training around it. I tore my elbow. I was kick sparring. Like I find a way around everything. That was the first time I couldn't push through or work around. So that was probably the most frustrating one, especially given that's the first time I've ever pulled out of a fight. Like I always swore that I would never pull out of a fight. I've fought with injury, like serious injuries. I fought with food poisoning. Like I've done. I really won't pull out of a fight unless I like physically have to. And that was like the first time I've actually had to. Like I remember I came in to teach the kids class and they actually ended up giving me a break because I was so upset about pulling out the fight. Like it was like I was heartbroken. They actually gave me like a couple days off coaching because I was that upset about it. So that was probably like the roughest one.
Did they get to the sort of the bottom of what it was and stuff like that, or was it
just kind of like there's theories and like say I had like nutrition tests, blood tests, and just made sure everything was spot on with that, and then something worked. I tried everything, so something worked, and then now we're back. So
so you mentioned you went into this fight, most recent fight, with a bit of an injury. What was that?
Yeah, I had a few things. I don't want to like talk about it because I don't want people thinking I'm making excuses.
Okay,
at the end of the day, I made I knew the risks going into this fight. Like I discussed it with coaches. I really wanted to fight at home in front of my friends and my family. Obviously, it backfired. A lot of people think I should have pulled out the fight, but that was my decision. I knew what adversities I had going in there. I knew the risk I was taking, and I made that decision to go in there. So at the end of the day, no excuses. Like the only thing that matters to people is the result. So whether I made the right choice or not, like I made that choice.
Yeah.
I've that was on me. So yeah, but like I say, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want people thinking I'm just making excuses. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like the people that were around me, they knew what I was dealing with. They knew what happened, and at the end of the day, like I say, like I made the choice to go in there, and there's no point for me regretting it. Like say, if anything, it taught me a lesson. Like maybe I should have pulled out, but like I've explained before, if I feel like I can work around it and push through it, then I will. So maybe be smart from now on, but it's done now, and hindsight's a wonderful thing.
You mentioned before that you're clumsy.
Yeah.
And you obviously just knocked a drink over as well.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all right. I don't have to clean up, so it's fine. But also, would you say you're stubborn?
Oh, very, definitely.
Annoyingly stubborn?
It's my biggest strength and my biggest weakness, for sure.
Yeah, I think it can be a benefit, can't it? For sure, but it can also be detrimental. But I think I think also to be a professional athlete, you have to have a certain level of stubbornness and drive, because otherwise you're just not going to be able to push through those times of adversity. And anyone who eventually gets to the top of their field, whatever it is in sport or anything, there's going to be times where you have adversity. So in sport, there's going to be injuries, there's going to be losses, there's going to be all sorts of things along the way. Is kind of how you deal with them, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Like I say, I think stubbornness definitely plays a part for me, like massively. And I always say to people, like you say about injuries and stuff, like there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. You know what I mean? Like when you're injured, that's when people like me, like I need people around me that are gonna kind of tell me to stop being stubborn. But when you're hurt, you need stubbornness to know that you can push through. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a fine line, but there's definitely a difference. Like I know people that will literally like they'll miss training for every single little excuse because they didn't feel 100% that day, and it's like, those are the people that I feel like don't have that mental kind of strength to do what needs to be done. And I feel like it plays off in my fights a lot too. Like I know I'm never going to break, I'm never going to quit because I'm so stubborn. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's a strength and a weakness.
Yeah,
but
sure.
that's why you need a good team around you to tell you when to.
Yeah, like when I had Lewis Long in here not long ago, he was kind of saying, like, as a coach, I'll pull my fighters if they're injured, and they will never want to not fight. They'll, same as you, they'll train around it. They'll look to fight, but he will, if he thinks he's got to make that decision, he'll make that decision, and maybe it'll upset him, but he'll do what's best for his fighter. But then I put the question to him, but if it was you, for your fight in your next Bellator fight or whatever, and he said, yeah, I'd probably fight through it. So it's kind of like that. It's that fighter mentality, isn't it? And I think that's why it's important to have a good or a top level coaching team around you who can help you with those decisions.
That's it. Like, I remember being told when I was like 15, and one of the guys, and it kind of stuck with me, like, one of the guys said, he's like, it's a fighter's job to want to fight anybody, to be willing to fight anybody. It's a manager and a coach's job not to let them. You know what I mean? Like, you put your trust in these people for a reason, you know what I mean? Like, it's their job to kind of like, I mean, obviously, like, say I play a big part in it, like, say if my coaches go, do you think maybe we shouldn't do this? And I go, there's no way I'm not doing this. There's only so much they can fight me. So
yeah, of course.
I need to be a little less stubborn on my part in certain areas. But like you say, like got people around me that I trust and that I know definitely gonna be smarter from now on. Because I have no, like, I still, like, again, part of my stubbornness, part of, like, my mentality or whatever, like, I still have no doubt that one day I'm gonna be the best. I'm also aware that I'm young, I'm early in my career, and perhaps haven't made the smartest moves. So, I know that, but I know that I've got the right people around me to do that. So just kind of back to the drawing board and start working on that,
Yeah, and I think the advantage that you've got over maybe some other people within the sport is, apart from the ability and the talent and all that sort of stuff, which a lot of fighters have that because they're the elite level. But what you also have is you have age on your side. You also have a top team around you. So by the time you're into your sort of, say, late 20s, coming up towards 30, you're going to have so much experience behind you, on top of building your skills and getting better and better, that fingers crossed and touch wood, that you'll be where I think everyone thinks you're going to be, and clearly where you believe you're going to be. Be the first British born UFC champion, female UFC champion, wouldn't you? Has there been one before? Don't think there has, have there?
Don't think so.
So there you go.
First Welsh for sure.
First Welsh one for sure, that's for sure.
Already got that one.
Yeah, because Molly McCann's on a bit of a tear as well, so she could be like a race between the two of you. So just to kind of finish us off towards the end of the show, rather than ask you, like normally I'd ask you, if you've got anyone you'd like to fight and stuff, but I'm aware that obviously you're kind of still processing your most recent fight, and you've been in Wales, so you haven't been with your team and stuff like that. So I think I'm going to kind of leave that, and I'm going to go completely random and ask you some just non-fighting questions. What are you watching on Netflix at the moment?
I actually did just start something with my family. I don't really watch TV usually. I can't remember what it's called. It's about what is it called? I'll say terrible. I can tell you the plot. Mm-hmm. It's just it's like I like a lot of like crime thriller sort of things. It's like along that sort of lines. But no, I don't really watch
I remember
TV.
You saying actually when we spoke before that you don't watch a great deal of TV.
No.
So what so say you've got like a day off or an afternoon off or whatever where you've been training or you haven't got training, like what would you do to chill out and just relax?
I like to draw a lot. I do a lot of painting and stuff. I've been working my way through the Game of Thrones books for like what feels like an eternity. But also I don't read too much in camp because I feel like I'm like all over the place and I'm just focusing on fighting and stuff. But yeah, I like to draw a lot. Really taken to like cooking for my friends.
Okay.
So.
What's your best dish?
Ooh, well, it depends who you're talking to, doesn't it? I mean, I made a lamb roast yesterday. I kept it traditional for my family, and that was a hit. So I'm gonna go with that.
I'm so jealous. My wife doesn't like lamb, and my mother-in-law doesn't really like lamb. I know. I've thought about it because.
Is she Welsh?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah. Well, this is it. I'm gonna have to check because, but they don't. So her and her mum don't really like lamb. They don't really like beef either. So quite often we'll have like pork or chicken and stuff like that, which is, I like that. But it's every now and again my father-in-law will like whip out a nice bit of lamb or beef. I get so excited, like a child in a sweet shop.
Yeah, that's my thing. I'm like, if I'm back home, we have a Sunday roast.
Quality Welsh dinner. So would you when you're out in Sacramento? Would you make a roast dinner?
I did.
How did it
we
go
had
down?
we had a Welsh Thanksgiving and a Welsh Christmas, so my friends enjoyed that.
Okay.
For
Did
sure.
they enjoy the roast dinner?
Yeah, definitely went down a treat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that something they do? Like, so like here, you'd have like quite often like a Sunday roast, isn't it? So, is that commonplace in America?
No, I like to say so people always ask me, they're like, oh, because obviously there's a lot of different like cuisines out there and stuff. And they're like, oh, what do Welsh people eat? And I'm like, the only thing I can ever think of is like
Sunday roast.
a Sunday roast. And I'm like, I don't know. I was like every Sunday we'll have a roast, and like I try to explain to them what that means, and I'm like, picture what you have on Thanksgiving and Christmas, but like slightly smaller scale every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
And they're always a bit like, huh? And I'm like, yeah. So
there we go. What about
out.
if you could? So if you're like not cutting weight, you're not like dieting or anything like that, and you could have any food, but you're not allowed a Sunday roast. You could have any food, whether it's a takeaway or something made. What would be your choice? Your favorite food?
Depends where I'm at, really, but I've really taken to I still, even if I'm out of camp, I like to keep it quite clean and stuff.
Yeah.
I've really taken to poke and sushi kind of sort of food, like nice fresh fish, vegetables, rice, still kind of like to keep it pretty clean.
So do you not bother with many takeaways, stuff like that?
Not too much. And if I do fancy that sort of thing, or my friends want to eat that sort of thing, I actually kind of like making it myself.
Okay.
So it's kind of different. Say I make a lot of different stuff, really. I like making like curries. I've been making Mexican food. I've been making my own ramen and everything. So I kind of I like to kind of adventure and play around with my own sort of little things.
I'm a big fan of Mexican food, and there's a Taco Bell around the corner from here, which is quite near. It's only been here a couple of months, but it's 10 minutes from my house, and every time I've got a spare hour or something, and I'm like, oh, there's no food here, and I just go and get tacos and stuff. But then I looked on the American version of the Taco Bell website. They got so much better stuff. There's just much more variety of all these different tacos and stuff. But I like making Mexican. I like making just a big massive feast of it, especially because my kids are all big now, so I can just, there's an excuse to make loads. And we'll just have enchiladas and tacos and burritos and fajitas and just stick it on a big table and make your own. Help yourself.
Nice.
In good stuff. Right, what about the last couple of minutes? What was the last music album you bought?
I've got Spotify Premium. I don't buy music
That's
anymore.
No one does today.
It's 2022.
What was the last song you listened to?
I usually just shuffle play everything.
So, when was the last time you listened to Spotify?
Oh, I can't live without music. I literally am one of those weirdos that will turn my car off, put my headphones in, and walk the 5 minutes to the gym.
Yeah, that's what I do as well. Just got headphones in constantly. So, did you listen to music on the way over here, or were you talking to your mum?
Oh, they don't count. I have a playlist specifically for my mother, so I'm not.
Take all the swearing out.
I'm not telling any of that music. That's all so
come
cheesy.
On, that's the best stuff.
So cheesy.
I'll tell you what.
I think it was Scouting for Girls or something.
Oh,
it was super cheesy.
So my wife, she'll kill me for saying this. She's when she was young, she used to really like Steps, and
there was definitely Steps in that playlist.
Yeah, there we go.
It's one of those. It's one of those playlists that we don't.
We won't tell anyone about that. But,
I don't think what I've been listening to lately.
But so last night you had Spotify on. What did you listen to?
I just shuffle my songs. That's what I'm trying to think. I like a lot. I listen to a lot of alternative music, so it tends to just be random songs. Really trying to think what I've been on.
So
lately.
would you go for like dance music bands, indie bands?
No, like I said, like a bit
rock
like
bands?
indie alternative sort of stuff. And
Okay.
it is really like my playlist is so random. I don't really ever like shuffle. I think the last band that I shuffle played was probably Catfish and the Ballmen.
Okay, good shout.
Yeah.
Good shout. So would you go, if you had like the choice, would you go more like UK indie or like American bands?
Oh, I always get ripped for listening to just pretty much solely British music, so it's alright.
So they're not like that then? They're not having that at all, are they?
You're right, I
British music?
skipped Stereophonics on my phone once, and
Oh my
I was
goodness.
so disappointed in it.
Come on, what's going
Right. I would have some culture.
on?
So, there you go.
Sacramento, what's that like? Just to finish us off.
Yeah, it's alright. Like I say, I'm there solely for the gym. I'm in the gym from like 8:30 in the morning till like 9 p.m. at night. You know, I swing home occasionally to grab some food if I haven't brought it with me, and then it's pretty much as I do. It's like
Just training, coaching.
yeah. Obviously, it's like the capital, so it's like kind of like a bit more of a city. Loads of places to eat and stuff. So I've kind of like got to like broaden my horizons on that. But you know, I like that everything's like nice and close. Like on a Sunday, if I'm not training, which is rare, usually I'll train and then do it. But I'll like there's a lot of like hikes, like very
Okay, cool.
very close around. You know, like 20-minute drive. I can be like in the mountains a little
Is it
bit.
near
so it's-
near like any beaches and stuff like that, or is it quite far away?
Beaches I think are quite a drive. I'm not a big fan of beaches, I'll be honest. So I've never really even looked at it. But you know, I like going to get lost in the woods and stuff. So that's pretty close. Like there's a lot of like national parks close as
I
well.
was going to say, isn't there some national parks and like mountains fairly close as well?
Yeah, I
think,
went
isn't
down to Yosemite for Christmas. That was
Cool.
like it was a couple hours, but it wasn't too bad. It was pretty
Yeah.
straight shooting.
there? So you just like go on a hike and just see where it takes you.
Yeah, I had nothing to do on Christmas, did I? So I was just I'll just go see the world. Like I figured I'd make the most of everything being quiet.
So you know, like so Christmas, you would just literally like on your own.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Was that weird?
No, I spoke to my family. You know,
Just spoke to them and then went on.
yeah,
Got lost in a park.
pretty much just when I got lost. It was snowing, wasn't it? So it was nice.
Ah, yeah, of course.
So
I had a bit of snow at Christmas, and suddenly it's a bit more enjoyable, isn't it?
yeah, I don't know. I'm one of those people like I like people and being around people and stuff, but I'm also quite content with my own company. So it's kind of like I don't really mind. I celebrated Christmas like a few days earlier with a couple of friends, and
Okay.
like you know then they went off to their family and stuff. It was just like so it was
Yeah.
pretty chilled.
See, I'm. It's weird because I do podcasting, but like I genuinely would rather be on my own. I don't like speaking to people, but there we go. It's a grumpy old man, I suppose. To finish us off, Cory, same question which I ask every single person when they come in here for this particular series. In your opinion, Cory McKenna, what is the meaning of life?
That's like a really deep question.
It is. And you've got like 3.5 minutes to answer it.
I think it's just to be happy, innit?
So the thing which I like about that question is kind of like depends on the person on how they answer it and yeah, their perspective on things. So you could go like a couple of ways. You can go on like, what's the meaning of life to you? You know, just to be happy, be nice to people, etc. Or you can look at it as like a far deeper thing of like, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here?
I'd
Depends.
stick with being happy, I guess. Or just
Be
you know,
happy,
doing
be
what you
nice.
love. You're gonna die anyway, yeah, so might as well have fun.
Yeah, certainly. What about on being happy? I gotta ask you. Obviously, you had your fight on Sunday. Do you read social media?
Oh, I read every single comment, every single message. Everyone out there, I see it. I also don't care.
Do you use it as a motivator, or do you just laugh it off and leave it where it is?
I get I motivate myself, if that makes sense. Like I don't
Yeah.
need. That's what I was saying earlier, like about the harsh love and like the harsh critique and stuff.
Mhm.
Like I'm very capable of motivating myself. Like I don't need.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need someone holding me accountable. I don't need like I will be training hard. I will be focusing on my goals, and I will be doing it because that comes from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't need that external motivation. To me, it's just entertaining. I find it hilarious.
Madness.
Like you know, like the thought that like 30-year-old men feel the need to go and tell a 22-year-old girl that she sucks and should kill herself and whatever else
Oh,
they've been
yeah.
saying. Like I'm like, that's funny.
Incredible.
Like I remember telling Macy once, I was like, because like she was talking about the comments that she gets, because she gets a crazy amount. And I remember saying to her, I was like, oh, one of my favourite hobbies is to go on your Instagram and read your comments. And she was like, why? They're horrible. And I was like, yeah, exactly. I was like, it's hilarious.
Yeah. But then this is the thing, and like everyone deals with it differently. Like, so you've got like Paddy kind of will out them and kind of really draw attention to him, which has been a detriment to him because he gets in trouble with like Instagram and all this stuff and Twitter and things. But I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to draw attention to the fact that these people are saying this horrific stuff, and like people are so normalized to seeing those types of comments that people just ignore it. And it's like,
yeah, I have friends that post a lot of them. Like, I'll definitely screenshot the funny ones, and like I have like a group chat with my friends, and I'll be like,
yeah,
look what this weirdo said. But like, honestly, like I don't pay it no mind. Like, say like you know, just people are like, oh, don't read it, don't acknowledge it. I'm like I don't really care. Like, you know, there's a select few people whose opinions really matter to me. And other than that, it's like, obviously, like I really appreciate the support. I see all the support for everyone. Like I don't always get to reply to everyone, but like I see it all. And, you know, the support means a lot to me. The hate is amusing to me. And at the end of the day, like, I feel like people value social media, like, way too much. Like, at the end of the day, like, these are people that don't know me.
No.
They haven't done what I've done. Like, and I'm just kind of like, meh.
Yeah, it's just weird. But then there could be someone else who they say those comments to, who
and it
do
could ruin their week.
Yeah, it could take it really personally.
Like, I know people like that. Like, so, like, they'll post all of them on their story, and they'll be like, I've had to block so many people, but I'm like, I haven't blocked a single person. Like, you can check my phone. I don't think I've got anyone blocked. Like, I've replied to a few of the messages of people, because I say, like, they're hating on me so bad that I'm like, this is really funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just like, I really don't pay it no mind, because at the end of the day, like, these aren't people whose opinions really matter to me. You know what I mean?
The very last thing now before I let you go, because I know you want to go and have some lunch with your mum. There's this guy who watches our shows. He's really sound. He's a really cool dude, Rob. But he's a patron, so he gets to the level of patron. He gets to appear on different shows now and again. And he came on one the other day, and he's now known as the man with 5 accents. Well, no, was it the man of 1,000 accents? Because as he's talking, his accent changes rapidly. You might now be the female version of that, because I just noticed, I haven't noticed it throughout the whole hour, and then just then when you were talking and you were getting a bit excitable about the comments, you had a bit of an American twang in there.
I've definitely heard that a lot, you know. I always laugh because I'm like, oh, when I'm in America, they're like, oh, you're Welsh. And then when I was like going to Wales, they'd be like, oh, you sound American. And when I go to England, they'd be like, oh, you sound like whatever. Like, everyone thought I sounded like something else. And I'm just like, oh. So here we go. I don't really know who I am. One of my friends described it pretty well. She was like, oh, she's just a mutt. And I was like, yeah, pretty much. Like, so I don't know. I'll go back there now and they'll be like, oh, you sound a lot more Welsh. Yeah. You know, and like Mason comes out sometimes and like I'll have a conversation with him and then I'll go talk to someone else and they'll be like, did you speak to Mason? And like they'll know because like it'll just come out.
Pick it back up, didn't you?
Yeah. It's funny.
I just think maybe like if you're back at like say in a year's time and I just imagine you as having like a full on like California accent.
Just walking like, hey y'all.
Yeah, I could just feel it. Guys, check out Cory McKenna on social media and all the stuff. I'll put all the links to the description below. But most of all, check out the paintings as well. They're awesome. You still got that social media page?
Yeah.
I'll put that in there as well. Check that out. Cory McKenna.